Welcome to One Tired Teacher Turned Two Tired Teachers, episode 196, The Importance of Teaching Science. So we've been talking about integrating arts and science. We've been talking about integrating all different types of things with science. And specifically, we've been talking about science. So we thought that it might be important to actually talk a little bit more about why we should be focusing on science, unlike my district, and that and that really is some important reasons why science is so important. Hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Okay, so we are. Lee and I are back to talk about the importance of science.
Yes, we are back, and I'm really loving this topic. My grandfather was a high school science teacher and even taught like the science college level courses at the local university in New York. And so I feel like this is in my bones. Science is in my bones.
Yeah. I think science can be one of the things that kids love about school.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some kids that get super into science. And I think one of the problems that we've had as a country is that we have less and less people interested in STEM careers. And we really, I feel like if we don't foster a love of science and we don't show them that science isn't just, well, it isn't just
reading a
science.
textbook.
Yeah. It's not just reading a textbook. It's not just the science
or memorizing terms.
It's not some of those things that feel kind of boring. There's so much more to it. And I do love that the next generation science standards have come along and really integrated engineering as well, and technology and math, because it all goes together and scientists and engineers work together. And so I think that's important. And I think it's also important to share with kids the types of jobs that are available. I can't remember what episode it was. I'm going to link to it in the show notes because it was so good. I had this author come on the podcast, and she talked about different STEM careers that she taught that were in her book. And it was really geared more to girls because it was
I love that.
Yeah, it was like a fashion engineer. And it was like all these things that you've never heard of. And I was like, whoa, that made it sound like a whole nother level where you don't think about specific kinds of jobs as being like science and engineering. It was really good. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great place to listen, maybe after learning about the importance of science in the classroom.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think? For me, I feel like science is all around us. It provides this unique understanding of our world. We get to investigate problems, and we really are asking ourselves to think, or asking students to think critically, and problem solve, which I feel like they don't always get to do, unfortunately.
No,
so
I think we do a lot of spoon feeding for students, but I think what's amazing. Okay. So humans naturally are curious, and science allows us to better understand our world around us, just like you said. And students are take curiosity to another level, right? Like adults kind of get a little jaded. We know how the world works, but to a kid, this is all new. They don't know gravity. They don't know the forces of things or why this happens when this happens. They don't.
Yeah.
It's a magic to them. So why not give them that sound scientific basis and allow them to understand why the things happen in our world, by providing that strong background in science.
Yeah. I think it's a way, it's kind of a different way of thinking. It really is like problem solution oriented. And
yes,
and that's one thing that I love about it, and what I think is so necessary for students, because I feel like in the current day and systems of education, we are like spoon feeding, and we're like, we want them to know this. They have to know this for the test. It's all based around that, but we're not giving them the opportunities to really like dive in and understand, and also figure
or to think critically.
Yes. Yeah. Think critically. I still always go back to that that time when I had to substitute in the engineering class a couple years ago when I was the media specialist. And I was doing like an open-ended challenge. I was based on a story. I read a story and then I was having them do this open-ended challenge. I didn't give them a lot of information. I was like, here are the materials, here's the criteria, here's the constraint. There you go. And that was it. And you solved the problem. And my third graders, they blew it out of the water. Like they were so creative. Yes, they were so creative. They came up with multiple different kinds of solutions. They worked in teams. It was like very powerful. First grade, same thing, no problem. Fourth grade came in and they were like, I don't know what to do. I can't do this.
They don't want to think for themselves.
No,
sometimes.
because they were so used to getting everything handed to them and done in this specific way that it was like the creativity had been sucked out of their little brains.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking. And I'm like, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing to these kids. We're stifling them because it's not like they weren't creative to start with, because we're born that way.
Oh, yes.
We're born with a natural curiosity.
Yeah.
I remember when I got my national boards, when I was doing national boards and I got my national certification. And that was one of the biggest things, was we need to build off children's natural curiosity, which is why I was telling you about the 5E method when we got on, before we got on.
Before we got on, we were talking about it.
Yeah.
This is what two teachers talk about. Like we just talk about teaching models.
Because I think it's so interesting, because Florida has not like dove in next generation science standards. We are so behind.
Yeah, we do next generation science centers, which I think are good.
We don't in my district. Yeah.
Well, that's because you guys don't teach science, but we use them because in Florida, science is tested in 5th grade. I don't understand how
we are tested. We're the same thing as you, but that's not really a science test. It is really a reading comprehension of science information.
Yes, but they need to know science concepts to be able to understand.
They do, but we have science standards as the state of Florida, but they're not the next generation science standards.
I am so confused. I'm very sure they are.
No, they're really not. When you look at when you think about what
you dig in again. That's what happens when you have to teach intervention.
You were teaching 2nd grade, like you were teaching, matter, you were teaching habitats, you were teaching the practice of
life cycles.
What else?
Weather,
force and motion, weather. It's not all those topics.
Energy.
The next generation science is like 3 topics for the grade. You go really deep into states of matter and all things matter. Matter is one of them. You're looking at systems. You are still doing like rocks and soil, but it's also landforms, which landforms wasn't in 2nd grade. That was in 1st grade.
No.
So it is different.
Actually, I think it was in 3rd grade, wasn't it?
I don't know. I thought that.
I just remember salt dough. People, 3rd grade always would do salt dough.
Yeah.
Like maps.
Maybe it's in both. I feel like I know more the 1st and 2nd grade and not the 3rd.
I know, me too.
But anyway, so the 5E is not, it's like kind of a move away from the scientific method. And it doesn't necessarily have to go in this linear direction, which is why people criticize the scientific method, I guess. But basically it's engaged. So you're engaging the students, you're getting them excited about something, then they're exploring, you're allowing them to explore first before you give them the background knowledge, because they already are coming to the table with information and things that they know. And you're kind of building on that. So they get to explore and investigate in the moment. And then
they start to build their schema. Right.
Then you explain, like after they have already like started to wonder and ask questions and all that, then you elaborate and then you evaluate. And again, it doesn't have to be in that exact order. Like you know, maybe you're starting with explaining, like most people probably would do that, because it's hard to let the students lead the way because we're so used to leading the way. But I think it's a really fascinating model. I created my STEM units based on that. And it was like a whole new way of thinking.
Well,
it's fun.
I think it's funny because I really don't know much about 5E yet. When I think of lessons I've done in the past that have been very powerful, they include almost all those steps in that order. Like there was a lesson we used to do for science at the beginning of the year where we would take a potato and put it through an apple core. So it would be like a cylinder.
Mhm.
And then we would take a slivered almond and put it on the top so it looked like a candle, and you would light it and it would look like a flame.
Huh.
And we would walk around the classroom and have the students observe this thing in our hand. And they would have to explore, figure out what it was, use their sight, smell. We didn't
all
let them
their
taste it,
senses.
obviously,
Yeah.
but use their senses. And it really kind of like allowed them to become mini scientists and just kind of use their senses to explore this. Then at the end, you would blow out the candle and then you would bite it. And it would like blow the kids' minds because they think you're eating a candle. They think you were walking
Yeah.
around with a candlestick and you just bit it. But the truth is it's a potato. So it was like such a great introduction.
Is this like a cooked potato or you're biting into
a raw potato? You obviously don't swallow the raw potato. But no, cooked potato would have been too soft. So you take like a russet potato and put the apple core in it and then take off the brown end.
Oh, it's so gross. Raw potatoes make me want to puke.
Oh, well, you don't swallow it. People, please don't start eating raw potatoes. They're probably not good for you. Anyway, but it was such a great way to introduce the concept that a scientist
got them excited.
Oh, you got them excited, but then you would
really
backload. Yeah, then you would back up and be like, that scientists use their observation skills to create and make conclusions, but sometimes things are not as how they seem. We have to go deeper.
You're right. And you're providing such a powerful thing. You're providing
it was a very powerful lesson.
This foundation for them to like really understand the world around them, which is the thing that I think is the most exciting part of teaching science. In my last days as a second grade teacher, my last years, I platooned with my teaching partner and I taught science and reading.
I mean, she co-taught. Platooned is like not
but it was not really co-taught because we weren't in the same classroom. I was in my classroom. She was in her classroom. I had a set of kids. She had a set of kids. And then we
would switch.
Yeah. But we didn't do
team
it like
teaching.
Maybe
that's a better word.
We didn't
teaching.
I wouldn't say it was departmentalized either. We did it a little bit differently. It's based on a model in Colorado that Stephanie Harvey, who I think is a genius on reading comprehension, I think she's the one that like came up with this whole idea. But so
I don't know because my district does this for 3rd through 5th grade.
I know, but it originated in Colorado, in schools in Colorado from that person. So that whole idea of platooning. Now, a lot of people do departmentalizing where they just teach that one subject and classes rotate or whatever. But so this is a little bit different. But anyway, I loved it. Like I was when I finally felt like I could teach science because I had that whole entire time to teach reading and science. And so my kids, like I got those little lab coats and they were like, would wear their lab coats and they felt like real scientists. Yeah. And then we did this really fun activity where we, read this book. I can't remember the name of it, but we created lookers and we went like out of, pipe cleaners. So they made like glasses and then we took our lookers and we went out into the outside in nature and had their little journals and they were writing down observations of the world around them. It was so fun. It was so fun. It was so cool. The questions they came up with were so unbelievable. And, kids have a hard time sometimes formulating questions, which is something that we have to teach them. And in the Common Core, you're asking and answering questions. In Florida, we took that standard out, which makes no sense.
Well, now it's in the EEs.
Okay, good. Because
it's not embedded in the standards anymore. Now it's in the ELA expectations. So it should be worked into every lesson.
So it's like a confusion of taking those standards and just putting them in a different place.
Basically.
All right. I won't get off on the thing I think of Florida. So anyway, it was such a fun lesson. And it was I don't feel guilty about that. I don't feel bad. I think Florida is stupid.
Did you see me disagreeing with any of these statements?
No, you're just like quietly making a facial expression.
Yes. For those of you listening, you didn't hear my facial expression, but it was kind of like a, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just think it's important. It's important because as the world becomes like more reliant on technology, it's so important for our students to understand and to be able to like think about how they want to solve problems.
Yeah. And I think you can almost exclusively do that through science. To me, that's the number one benefit of teaching science. Another one is building content knowledge, background knowledge. Studies have shown time and time again that students perform better on assessments when they have even just a small background on the topic.
Yeah.
So,
Which levels the playing field.
It does.
Because our children that come to school from less of a literacy or that rich kind of, and I don't mean rich economically, although sometimes, kids that have more privilege than others, they come sometimes with more of a background knowledge than some of our students that are less
more experiences, usually,
more experiences, more exposure to literature, to being read to, all of that stuff, more experiences, more places they've visited than kids that don't have that. And so we have to be able to give them experiences as well.
Yeah, bolster their opportunity. But teaching science is an easy way to do it through the text exposures that you might pull, through the concepts that you talk about, and even just the vocabulary. I remember when I used to teach second grade at a school that was non-Title I, we would talk about the plant life cycle. And most of the students knew the plant life cycle even before coming into second grade. But when I switched to third grade at a Title I school, my mouth was like, it dropped how many students did not know the plant life cycle, the life cycle of a plant. They did not know the term photosynthesis. They did not know the term, germination, or that seeds had a seed
because they
coat.
can't just read about it and then remember it. If they're actually putting it into practice and they're moving and they're doing all the things we talked about in the last episode about integrating arts and things like that, that's different. Because I was talking to my son who is working like on a construction site and he has to measure pipe and things like that. And he's like, I need the tape measure that has the cheats. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, that says like 3/8 and whatever. He's like, because I don't remember learning this in school. I'm like, you don't remember learning
I know.
measurement?
I taught it to my third graders.
I was like, I taught measuring in second grade. I'm like, wait a minute.
But measuring in second grade usually only to the inch. In third grade, you go into.
Well, that's what we talked about. He's like, like, we didn't, I think I went to the fourth, but this was a long time ago because I haven't taught math in second grade in a long time. But he's like, so we were like trying to remember where that comes in. And I'm like, you probably were just measuring things on paper and it just meant nothing to you. When it became something that you have to do as part of your job, or there was like relevance, or you had to like physically move around, and like, that's when it becomes more meaningful for you.
Well, and I think too, with measurement, just to touch really quick on that, is when you teach that standard in third grade, it's plotting fractions on a number line. And but you really have to take it a step further so that students understand that really what we're talking about is on a ruler. So when I would teach putting fractions on a number line, we would then equate it back to the measurement standard, even though the standards don't tell you to do that. But I was like, this is the real world application.
Yeah, that was very
No one's going to ask you to put fractions on a number line in order. No one's going to ask you to do that. But what they will ask you to do is to be able to read fractions when you're measuring. At the end of that unit in third grade, we pulled out rulers and we would measure to the 1/4 inch, the 1/2 inch, the 3/4, and then up. And it was a very powerful way to kind of like seal the deal because it became real life, right? Yeah. I need this in real life.
Well, when it becomes real life, that's when they pay attention to.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Okay. I think we did we miss anything about essential reasons?
Let's see. We talked about background knowledge. We talked about understanding the world around us, building vocabulary, building a sense of problem solving. That was like the top reason. Being able to sort through problem. I think we covered. Yeah. I'm sure, hey, listener, if you have another reason why science is so important, please, add to this conversation either on Instagram or can they comment on podcasts? No, there's no comments. Right?
Yeah, there's reviews, ratings, and reviews.
You can leave it in a review. Let us know. Mm-hmm. Let us know. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from the listeners.
Absolutely. 2 tired teachers.
Oh man.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for staying up with us.